Here's a quick overview for PSAT associate supervisors, and that's you if you are supervising a room of kids on the PSAT day.
While you can expect test takers to be a little anxious on test day, rest assured that test day unfolds in some fairly predictable ways. Supervisors will have everything ready to go, so associates can pick up prepared kits specific for their test rooms. In the rooms, associates will come up with seating plans and prepare to admit students to the test. They'll hand out test materials after all the test takers have arrived, not before. Then, the test follows the routine described in the supervisor's manual in both direction and script, which associates will read word for word. Associates will engage in active proctoring, watching for and tracking any irregularities in the room. Once all sections are complete, the associates will collect all the test materials and dismiss the room before sharing the materials back to the supervisor.
In our setting, you're going to pick up your materials at 372A, that's Amy and Lisa's office, and you'll bring them back there when it's all said and done. Please take a look at the general directions that you received. They have the timing for when you should be here, for when the kids are going to start coming into the room. And if you get there at 7:30, you'll have an opportunity to get everything set up before they get to the room. And you can have a treat in our office.
Supervisors should have prepared kits to share with you when you get to school. The kits will contain a test taker's list for the room, the correct number of test books and answer sheets, as well as a supervisor's manual and an SIR. Be advised, once you have the materials, you become responsible for their security until they're returned after the test. This means keeping an eye on them all morning or engaging the proctor or supervisor during breaks to watch over them while you're on breaks.
If you're alone in the room as the only staff member and you need a break, you're going to give us a call and we'll send a roving proctor to the room to provide the break for you. If you happen to have a proctor in the space with you, or you are the proctor with a room supervisor, the two of you can provide breaks for one another.
Suppose this was your test room. As of right now, it's not suitable for testing. When you close this window, you'll see 5 highlights on elements that need to be fixed. See if you can identify how to correct each of the problems.
We've put in a work order with B&G to set up the rooms appropriately, but if you should walk into a space and find, for example, that it looks like this, then you would fix things, obviously, so that all the desks are facing the same direction.
Desks need to be facing the front of the room, all of them.
You might notice usually the clock is in the right place already, but if it happens not to be...
Correct. The room needs to have a clock set up at the front of the room or another means of accounting for time.
And it's unlikely but possible that there could be some displays in the room that might provide students with an advantage over students in other rooms that don't have the display. So in this case, here's a periodic table. You would probably give us a call and we would help you figure out how to cover that up. So when you get to the room, please give it a quick once over and make sure that it is set up appropriately for testing.
Before the test starts, students need to put information on their answer sheets that provide identification as to where and when they took the test. Be ready by having the information they'll need up on the board ready to be copied down. What information is critical to include? You'll see some options. Take a guess at the appropriate options to complete the board. Some are easier than others.
So obviously you don't need to put the school mascot down. There's a list of things that you should include on your general directions as well as in the script that you've received.
What does the test morning look like from a timing perspective? You may need to start with some pre-administration activities, which usually take 45 to 50 minutes. If your school conducted a pre-administration session for students, you'll jump right into the first section.
We did not conduct the pre-administration session, so you will be doing that with the kids. I think it takes slightly less than 95 or 45 minutes, and be aware that they've got you starting at 9 in this example, but we are starting at 8.
This is a reading test, and it's timed for 60 minutes. After that, students get a 5-minute break before they start in on the 35-minute writing and language section. When writing and language is done, they'll switch right into the non-calculator portion of the math test. Tour the room and ensure all test takers remove calculators from their desks for this section. This takes an additional 25 minutes and is followed by a 5-minute break. The last section is the 45-minute math test with calculator. When it's done, you'll spend about 5 minutes collecting materials and dismissing test takers. Why does this matter? It's important to know how long each section will take in order to understand the pace of the test, the pace of your morning. Furthermore, it's important to understand that this can't be rushed and that correct timing is a critical part of fair testing. As a side note, if you happen to run overtime with the pre-administration portion, make sure the remaining section's timing remains the same. Again, you can't rush the sections regardless of how the rest of the school's test is unfolding. When the test room is ready, can students just enter and seat themselves freely? No. Associate supervisors must either direct them to assigned seats or assign seating at random. There are 2 general points to check off for your test room. Select each for details.
Most of you will not have any homeschooled kids in your room, so you don't need to worry about that piece. But if you do, you'll have a notation on your roster that provides the code for those students to enter for their school. And as I said before, we did not do the pre-administration option, which means that the kids are going to bubble all the pre-test information on the day of the test.
You may be used to handing out materials to classes. You may even do this nearly every day. So, do you think there is any difference in the way you hand out test materials? There is. Make sure to hand out test materials individually to students, rather than setting a stack of materials on the front desk of a row and having test takers hand them back. You'll collect materials individually as well. Again, the idea here is to ensure there are no opportunities for any student to gain an unfair advantage. Delivering the test can be extremely straightforward. Using the script in your manual, you'll read it word for word in the order provided. There, test delivered. Still, you want to make sure you're doing it right. What does that mean? You'll start where the manual says, begin here on test day. There follows some information on what to include on the board, as well as how to deal with cell phones and backpacks, and then latecomers. Then you get important instructions on how to read the script, including when to pause and what parts are to be read versus instructions to you. Next, you'll read the tinted components aloud and follow the instructions. Here you see the script for the first section, the reading test. It indicates the duration of the test and has a place for you to write down the start and finish times. It also includes instructions for what you should be doing during the test, as well as timed call-outs you will need to make to keep test takers apprised of the time. An important tip: read through, even practice script reading before the test to understand where the potential challenges are. Feel free to mark up the script if it is helpful. One thing to be mindful of: if your school did take the students through the pre-administration activity at an early date, you'll need to skip that section on test day. Otherwise, you'll read it in order.